What's happening, guys? My name is Grizno and welcome to my complete PDW guide for Battlefield 4. In this video, I will be reviewing every PDW available for the Engineer class, going over all the pertinent statistics on each weapon, as well as give my personal opinions on how the guns handle and what attachments I found work best on them. As a disclaimer though, I'd like to point out that these opinions are solely my own, and if you disagree, then that is completely fine. Leave me a comment letting know what you disagreed with, as I always love hearing other people's experiences with weapons, even if they're completely different from my own. And just like I did with my assault rifle guide, I've included a handy table of contents in the description below that will allow you to skip to any weapon you want at any time, since this video is quite long. And I just want to make sure everyone is aware that they do not have to watch the entire video to see their favorite weapon. So if you don't want to sit through the full half an hour that this video will span, I don't blame you. Feel free to skip around to different weapons using the table of contents below. One other thing I feel we should go over before we start is the existence of damage multipliers, because these are definitely going to affect the damage values I'm going to be rattling off for each of these weapons. So damage multipliers get applied to your bullets' damage depending on where you hit an enemy. Okay, so if you shoot someone in the legs or the stomach, there is a 0.93 multiplier applied to your bullet's damage value, and this is actually going to lessen the damage value, and that is because you're shooting this person in a non-vital area. If you hit someone in the chest and arms, you get a normal 1x multiplier, and your bullets will do their full damage value. However, if that person is running the defensive specification, which most people are because it's the default specification, the chest and arms also get a 0.93 times multiplier, and basically this means it's going to take an extra bullet to put anyone running that defensive spec down. Headshots always stay the same, thankfully, at a 2x multiplier. But that is basically all you will need to know going into this, so without further ado, let's get started with the newest addition to the PDW family. Coming to us in the Second Assault DLC package, it's the always wonderful, always deadly AS-VAL. The AS-VAL has a maximum damage of 30 and a minimum damage of 17, firing at a rate of 900 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 20 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 21 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 2.9 seconds when empty and 1.95 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The AS-VAL is a totally unique PDW in that it comes with an integrated suppressor, and for that reason you cannot equip any barrel attachments at all on it. At first I wasn't sure what I thought about the AS-VAL. Right away I could tell that it was definitely different from the Battlefield 3 version in that it was a little bouncier in the recoil department, and it made it a little harder to control and hit shots at longer ranges. The beauty of the AS-VAL in Battlefield 3 was that the first two bullets were dead on accurate and you could headshot people so fast with it. But it's a little harder to do that in Battlefield 4 because they've added a harsh kick to the second bullet that comes out of this thing. But in close quarters combat, the AS-VAL is so good, provided you're aware of its shortcomings and sort of learn how to deal with them. Those shortcomings most definitely include the low magazine capacity at only 20 rounds, which means it's the perfect weapon for those of you who are like me and suffer from that constant reload syndrome, as you will be reloading often. And if you can help it at all, and it can be difficult not to fully mag dump this thing at times, but try to reload before you're fully depleted, as the fast reload time is a full second faster than the long reload. This weapon also shares the bottom of the list of PDWs with the slowest bullet velocity at only 320 meters per second, most likely because of that integrated suppressor. So if you're engaging enemies on the move, you'll need to be leading your shots a bit more than with an unsuppressed weapon. As far as the grip attachment goes, there are two different ones I can recommend. The angled or folding grips will work wonders at reducing that initial recoil they stuck us with, so that'll really help you with your overall accuracy and control, especially if you can remember to burst fire this thing, although that does drop the rate of fire. The other would be the stubby or vertical grips. These are going to help you with your accuracy from the hip or on the move in general, I guess. These grips are especially good for Operation Locker when you're peeking corners. It'll give you better accuracy when you're bobbing back and forth behind that wall, slow peeking around the corners and just popping guys as they appear. Overall, I'd say the AS-VAL is definitely a good choice for a run and gun playstyle, and the built-in suppressor definitely plays a big part in that. Its great rate of fire and quick reload are good traits for sure, but be wary of that low magazine size. Remember to get back to cover, reload often, and you should see a lot of success with the beast that is the AS-VAL. The MX4 has a maximum damage of 25 and a minimum damage of 12.1, firing at a rate of 830 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 30 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 31 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.4 seconds when empty and 2.5 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The MX4 is the default PDW available for the engineer class, and comes equipped right out of the box with a reflex optic, laser sight, and ergo grip. On its own, the MX4 is a balanced, close to medium range weapon. It has a bit more than average damage and manageable recoil, so you'll be surprised at how easily you can pick up people off at medium ranges. One area that the MX4 might be lacking in compared to most PDWs is the hipfire statistic. It's unusually low and puts it as second worst in the class, barely edging out only the AS-VAL. But luckily, the default attachments Daiso kindly provides you with both work in favor of hipfire accuracy, and without having to unlock anything at all, this weapon can compete right out of the gate with the rest of the pack. On the subject of attachments, I actually just recommend running the default ones, as the MX4's weakness really is its hipfire accuracy, so you're going to want to bring that up for sure. Stay in the same realm of ergo grip, so a vertical grip will give you a similar feel, and a laser sight. The suppressor works really good on the MX4 as well, so if you want that stealth element, I'd definitely say yes, a suppressor works well on it. And finally, if you find yourself aiming down sights more often than hip firing with the MX4, you can always swap out the laser sight for a tactical light or a flashlight to try to blind your enemies in close quarters situations. Overall though, I'd say the MX4 is definitely one of the more usable PDWs, and although it only has a 31 round magazine, I think you'll find that the higher damage output will definitely make up for that, as you can drop guys pretty quickly with this weapon. The PP2000 has a maximum damage of 25 and a minimum damage of 12.1. Firing at a rate of 650 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 44 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 45 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.5 seconds when empty and 2.55 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The PP2000 is the second slowest firing PDW, but as a result, it's one of the most stable and controllable. The extremely low recoil and good hipfire make it a great choice for close to medium range engagements, as well as a moderate bullet velocity at 400 meters per second means engaging moving targets will be a little easier as well. I find the PP2000 to be a decent middle-of-the-road PDW, but it's definitely far from my favorite. It really suffers in close quarters with the low rate of fire, as most of the time you're going to be going up against an assault rifle like the AEK or something similar, and since there's such a gap there in the rates of fire, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose that battle. But for that reason, I definitely recommend running a laser sight so you can really take advantage of the PP2000's great hipfire and stability in close. And I think that one is a no-brainer, but the barrel attachment is something I would say can be switched up depending on the situation in game mode, obviously. A suppressor definitely works well on this weapon, and I don't find there's too much loss to accuracy or bullet spread, and a compensator can pretty much eliminate what little side-to-side recoil there is on this thing, but if you choose to run with a compensator or a muzzle brake, remember to start firing in bursts so you don't see that accuracy penalty you get to automatic fire. Also, the heavy barrel can be good on the PP2000, but again, burst firing is going to be the key here to good accuracy. One more thing to note about the PP2000 is that you cannot equip an underbarrel attachment, which means you cannot have a grip on this PDW. The CBJ-MS has a maximum damage of 22 and a minimum damage of 12.1, firing at a rate of 700 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 50 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 51 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.3 seconds when empty and 2.4 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The CBJ-MS is much better suited for medium range as opposed to close range, but I personally don't find it that bad in close either. The CBJ features a higher stability than most of the other PDWs, and it also has the highest bullet velocity at 520 meters per second. So as if that wasn't enough to convince you of the CBJ's prowess at longer ranges, the damage drop-off starts at 12.5 meters, which is significantly more than the standard 8 meters. What all this boils down to is that the CBJ-MS is definitely best at medium range engagements. One thing you have to watch out for when using the CBJ, however, is the harsh side-to-side recoil movement. Using a compensator will help decrease some of the side-to-side recoil, but in turn it'll add a little bit more to your upwards recoil. It's really a game of balance and feel when it comes down to choosing your attachments on this weapon. If you're wanting to use this guy, I would recommend playing around with different setups until you find the one that you enjoy the most. Personally, I like to leave the barrel naked, but I have found that the compensator works a little better than the muzzle brake as far as increasing the accuracy, decreasing the recoil. And I also found that throwing the suppressor on it basically destroyed the accuracy at distance. So I wouldn't recommend running a suppressor on the CBJ unless you're going to be keeping your engagements in close, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this weapon, as it really is going to shine at medium ranges. The CBJ is also one of those PDWs that you cannot equip a grip on, as the design of this weapon itself includes one already. And finally, one more thing this guy has going for it is its very large magazine size at 51 rounds total, and it has decently fast reload times as well, so that is a great pairing of statistics right there if I've ever seen one. The CZ3A1 has a maximum damage of 25 and a minimum damage of 12.1, firing at a rate of 1,000 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 30 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 31 total. Firing modes include fully automatic, 3-round burst, and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 2.4 seconds when empty and 1.9 seconds with a round still in the chamber. If you are looking for the close quarters beast of the PDWs, then look no further than the CZ3A1, also known as the CZ Scorpion Evo for all you Black Ops 2 players out there. This weapon boasts the highest rate of fire in its class, and it can drop enemies extremely quickly at close range. It has good accuracy, but it also has very strong recoil up and to the right, as well as a very harsh initial kick. The way to counter this obviously is by using the angled or folding grip, as they will help decrease that initial shock, and the compensator or muzzle brake will help with overall recoil control. That being said, I usually leave the barrel naked or run the suppressor because the close quarters is the CZ3A1's bread and butter, so add a stealth element to your Scorpion Evo game and you should be very happy with the results. I really wouldn't recommend running the heavy barrel on the CZ3A1 as the recoil is just unbearable, at least for my liking. When it came to the grip though, as I mentioned before, the angled and folding grips are great for reducing that initial recoil kick, but I also found that the stubby or the potato grip work well too, because they give you an accuracy bonus on the move, and in Battlefield 4, that actually counts for hipfire and ADS accuracy, so those grips also work well on this weapon. But in a nutshell, I find this weapon is best suited for a rushing stealth game, as it really performs best in close quarters. But watch out for that high rate of fire, because you will chew through ammo pretty quickly. So make sure there's some supports nearby, or run the offensive specification for that added ammo bonus. The UMP-45 has a maximum damage of 34 and a minimum damage of 15.4, firing at a rate of 600 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 25 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 26 total. Firing modes include fully automatic, 3-round burst, and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 2.5 seconds when empty and 1.85 seconds with a round still in the chamber. Ah, the UMP-45, a staple of the Battlefield series. This weapon has been in pretty much every game so far, so we all have come to know it pretty well, and in Battlefield 4 it performs very much like it has in the past as a hard-hitting PDW with high damage and much more stopping power than others in its class. It has a lower rate of fire at 600 rounds per minute, but again, the high damage output means you're going to be dropping guys in 3 to 8 shots even at medium range. This is indeed a great weapon to use for the fact that most players run the defensive specification, which decreases bullet damage to the chest by 10%. The UMP cuts right through that armor and still allows you to kill people running that specification in a similar amount of time than if they weren't. One huge statistic to note here is the bullet velocity at 320 meters per second unsuppressed. That is majorly low, so for that reason a lot of people will say run the suppressor since it's so low already. But what they might not know is that putting a suppressor on it means it's going to drop that bullet velocity even further down to 180 meters per second, which is extremely low. But it's not a bad idea entirely, and I actually do like the suppressor on this weapon for the simple fact that the UMP-45's recoil is really manageable, so there really is no point in using a muzzle brake or compensator in my opinion. For the grip, I like to go with the ergo or vertical grip, as it increases the UMP-45's accuracy from the hip and on the move. Overall, the UMP-45 is a great medium-range PDW, and its high damage works in your favor in close quarters as well, making it very versatile. But wait, isn't there another UMP in this game? There most certainly is, which brings me to the very similar but slightly better question mark, UMP-9. The UMP-9 has a maximum damage of 25 and a minimum damage of 12.1, firing at a rate of 700 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 30 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 31 total. Firing modes include fully automatic, 3-round burst, and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 2.5 seconds when empty and 1.85 seconds with a round still in the chamber. So this is the UMP-9, which is very similar to the UMP-45 except for a few aspects like the rate of fire being slightly faster at 700 rounds per minute. It fires lighter 9mm rounds, so it is less powerful than the UMP-45, but other than that, the 45 doesn't have much on the UMP-9. The UMP-9 holds the advantage over the 45 in a lot of other areas, such as the aforementioned rate of fire. It has a larger magazine at 31 rounds total, higher muzzle velocity at 370 meters per second, although that's not a huge difference, higher maximum distance, and a slightly lower recoil. Everything else is pretty much the same, but I think the few things that the UMP-9 does beat the 45 in are pretty important ones. When it comes to attachments on the UMP-9, I recommend running a laser sight, as is the case usually with a PDW. And again, I like the ergo or vertical grip here to add to the UMP-9's hip fire capabilities and accuracy on the move. But what else can I really say to help distinguish between the two? Not much. I mean, they function and feel very much the same, so for that reason the suppressor gets an okay on the UMP-9. Because, I mean, if I gave it an okay on the UMP-45, which has a lower rate of fire to begin with, then it must be okay on the UMP-9. And yes, I'd say that is the case. On a personal level, I really like the UMP-9 over the UMP-45, but I was playing a lot of the domination for the gameplay, so I think since this weapon is more favorable in close quarters, I think that's why it worked out for me so well. One last thing to mention about this weapon is that it is quite the task to unlock it. You will need to complete the Engineer Expert assignment, which requires 50 repair ribbons, so my recommendation is to get in those scout helis as a passenger and just prepare to repair and repair and repair. I definitely think it's worth it though, as this weapon is indeed very awesome. The PDW-R has a maximum damage of 25 and a minimum damage of 15.4, firing at a rate of 750 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 30 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 31 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.4 seconds when empty and 2.5 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The PDW-R is a personal favorite of mine as it is a very versatile weapon. It has very high stability and a nice rate of fire at 750 rounds per minute, making it great at medium range and at close range engagements. If you want to, you can play this weapon like a carbine and you will be pleasantly surprised at how effective it is at longer ranges. Using a muzzle brake or a compensator is the way to go with the PDR, I think, especially if you do want to be more effective at medium range. But even though I am praising it for its capabilities at longer range, it is really no slouch in tight as well. Like I mentioned before, the rate of fire is good, and the hip fire on the PDW-R is more than good, it's great. With the help of a laser sight, I'd even go as far as saying it's amazing, and I've gotten away with some kills from the hip that I never thought I would have at the time. If you're going to be running a muzzle brake or a compensator, however, the penalty you get to automatic fire is kind of bad on the PDW-R, so you want to remember to control your fire, tap on that trigger instead of mag dumping, and that will allow you to land more of your shots. And this is also going to apply to those close quarters panic mode situations as well. It's going to be the difference between you coming out of that situation alive or not. If you can remember to control your fire with the PDW-R in close just as you would at range, then you're going to notice better performance as you'll be landing more bullets on target and you most likely be coming away with that kill. Overall, I think you'll very much enjoy the PDW-R as it is a great weapon at medium and longer ranges, as well as it does provide you with good performance in close quarters with its excellent accuracy from the hip and good rate of fire. The JS2 has a maximum damage of 20 and a minimum damage of 11.2, firing at a rate of 900 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 50 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 51 total. Firing modes include fully automatic, 3-round burst, and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.15 seconds when empty and 2.3 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The JS2 isn't one of the standout PDWs. In fact, when you look at the stats on the JS2, it really paints a picture of being a very underpowered weapon. It has the lowest damage values in the class, but hey, does that really mean it's bad? Definitely not. In fact, it shares damage values with one of the more popular and amazing PDWs, the MP7. I, for one, actually really like the JS2, but there are a couple stipulations I have when using it. Number one is that I always run a suppressor on it, because for some reason, I find that with anything else on the barrel, the accuracy of this weapon really falls off. It is very similar to the UMP-45 in this sense because its muzzle velocity is the same at 320 meters per second. So certainly putting that suppressor on there isn't going to hurt that much, and I find it actually seems to help this weapon's accuracy. Second is tap firing. I think it's really important to tap fire the JS2 because its recoil is pretty bouncy and unpredictable. So tap firing really helps me stay on target and make sure my bullets are landing and not deviating all over the place. Two of the best things the JS2 has going for it are the rate of fire at a cool 900 rounds per minute, so that is pretty quick, almost getting up to the CZ3A1's level. But unlike the CZ3A1, which has a pretty small magazine, the JS2 has a very lovely 51 total round magazine, which really complements that rate of fire since you won't be needing to reload as often. Overall, I'd say the JS2 is very usable and very underrated, and I think you might want to look at this one again if you had previously skipped over it or didn't spend as much time on it, because I think it's a really great PDW and I guarantee you it will serve you well in close quarters combat. The P90 has a maximum damage of 21 and a minimum damage of 11.2, firing at a rate of 900 rounds per minute with a magazine capacity of 50 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 51 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3.45 seconds when empty and 2.45 seconds with a round still in the chamber. The P90 is another one of those PDWs that's been in around the Battlefield series for a while. It's known for its high rate of fire at 900 rounds per minute, its large magazine capacity at 51 rounds total, and its extremely low hipfire spread, making it a close quarters beast for sure. The P90 is actually kind of similar to the JS2 statistically, but it does have the advantage of a much higher muzzle velocity, meaning you won't have to lead targets as much when they are on the move. This especially comes in handy when running a suppressor, as you still enjoy a higher bullet speed with the P90 over the JS2 while running a suppressor. One area that the P90 suffers in is its reload speeds. This thing does take quite some time to reload, but luckily the large magazine is there to help you in that case. Always make sure you take advantage of the fast reload in this case, because it is a full second faster than the long reload, so when you can help it, reload that puppy before you have fully exhausted your magazine. Another bad thing is the low damage values, obviously, but I think the rate of fire and the fact that you can totally mag up this thing from the hip and not have to worry too much as far as your accuracy goes, I think both of those things more than make up that difference in damage compared to the other PDWs. The P90 is another PDW that you cannot equip a grip on because of its design, but as far as attachments go, I like to go with the suppressor, or the heavy barrel actually is alright on this weapon as well, since it's so controllable. Now, having said that it is controllable, I should mention that they have added slightly more side-to-side recoil on the P90 in Battlefield 4 than is traditionally on it, but I still think that it's a very controllable weapon, and if you're an experienced P90 user from the past, you won't have much trouble adjusting to the new recoil pattern. So yeah, great choice for close quarters action, P90. Which brings us to our last and possibly best, if I may be so bold, PDW on the list, the glorious MP7. The MP7 has a maximum damage of 20 and a minimum damage of 11.2, firing at a rate of 950 rounds per minute, with a magazine capacity of 40 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for 41 total. Firing modes include fully automatic and semi-automatic, and its reload times are 3 seconds while empty and 2.6 seconds with a round still in the chamber. Statistically speaking, as in overall statistics, all things considered, I think the MP7 is the best PDW. Let's just compare it to some other PDWs like the MX4, the UMP9, and the PDW-R, all of which are very, very good weapons. Okay, so we know it's not going to win in damage output because it does have a low damage output, but the MP7 does win in virtually everything else. Rate of fire at 950, almost tying the CZ3A1. Magazine size at 41 total rounds. Muzzle velocity at a very nice 470 meters per second, and a maximum distance at 705 meters. And although it doesn't win in the category, it still has great reload times for both the short and long reloads. It's another no grip PDW though, as it does its design has one provided for you. On the barrel, I like to run it naked or with a suppressor for the most part, but once in a while I will throw on the heavy barrel if I know I'm going to be dealing with a lot of close quarters fights, and just fire it from the hip a lot, and I find, coupled with the laser sight as well obviously, I'll have a lot of success this way. I didn't touch on sights on any of the other PDWs, but I do feel I should mention that I just love the iron sights of the MP7 as well, for some reason. I just think they're great, and even though it doesn't really do you any favors at all not to run a close range optic and just go iron sights instead, I just find it fun every now and then, and I do so, and I really don't find much of a difference. But to bring it all back, more often than not, I will run a Cobra optic, laser sight, and either a suppressor or no barrel attachment on this weapon. The heavy barrel can be good too, as I mentioned before, especially if you expect a lot of close quarters gunfights. So there you have it, the MP7, my favorite PDW. So that is going to wrap things up for this guide. If you've been here since the beginning of the video, I commend you on your persistence. No, really though, it is a very long video, and if you watched the whole thing, I just want to say thank you. You are awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my reviews and my recommendations. Hopefully I was able to help you decide what PDW you're going to take with you next time you are boots on the ground. If you did enjoy the video or found it helpful at all, please remember to show it some love by clicking that like button down below. And if you're new around here, I would absolutely love for you to join our little community and hit that subscribe button for lots more Battlefield 4 content, including more weapon reviews. I do a series on my channel called Kit Up, which is pretty similar to Level Cap's loadout series, so Every week you guys can suggest and vote on weapon setups you'd like to see me use, and I'll do a little review on them. Anyway, that's my time, guys, and I won't take up any more of yours. Once again, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. My name is Grizno. See ya.